Michael McCaul joins us around. The Texas Republican is the Foreign Affairs Committee chairman in the House Homeland Security Committee as well. It's pretty clear, Chairman, to me that Iran sees itself at war with us. I don't know how you define that, but constant financed attacks on us is maybe a starter. But what do you make of our approach not to claim war back?
Well, we don't want war with Iran, but the way to stop that, Neil, is through deterrence. And you do that through exercising strength and not weakness in the region. We've had, over 165 attacks on U.S. forces, very little response to this. We've had the Houthi rebels basically shut down commerce in the Red Sea, increasing shipping costs by 450%, which will impact inflation and energy, with not a very good response to that as well. I knew it was a matter of time before an American soldier would get killed. Now we have 3 and dozens who have been injured now, which is very sad. And I think this has been a creation of a very weak policy against Iran, starting with lifting the maximum pressure campaign, not enforcing the sanctions on their oil, by the way, Neil, which has empowered them with $80 billion in oil revenues to conduct this sort of attack. And it's important for your viewers to note this is all tied together: Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran-backed militias, and the Houthi rebels.
Well, that's why I go back to the war comment, not to jump through semantics on this, sir, but Iran clearly does want a war with us. Iran clearly acts like a country that funds a war against us, directly or indirectly. And we let that go for fear that responding in kind would invite a greater conflagration, some say even a world war. So we're very careful how we respond. And I would imagine we will be careful how we respond here. We don't want to overreact. So what would be your definition of overreacting? I've had guests talk to me, well, attacking sites in Iran would be an overreaction. What do you think?
I don't think we should take any options off the table in terms of deterrence. I think there are plenty of Iranian asset targets outside of Iran, in Iraq and Syria, and in Yemen. IRGC, that's their military forces in those countries, that we could easily attack tomorrow if the president had the will to do so. And it would have a very damaging impact on Iran and a major sense of deterrence. I think the question is, they don't question our military. They question our political will to deter their conduct. And I think that's what's at question right now.
There's separately, if I could switch gears, sir, a move afoot among some of your colleagues to impeach the Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. It's an uphill battle. It might not even be cleared to get through the Homeland Security House Committee, let alone the full House. But I would imagine it would be dead on arrival in the Senate anyway. The president seems to like the guy and wants him to stay exactly where he is. So what is the point of this?
I think the point is to send a message to the administration on behalf of the American people. When I go home, I just came back from my district in Texas. They're tired of this, the policies, and quite frankly, the dereliction of duty and breach of public trust on the part of this one man who is the architect, I would say, of all the destruction and chaos and crisis that we're seeing at the border, where you've had 8 million encounters, 300 on the terror watch list, 200,000 Americans, most of them young people, dead now due to fentanyls. And they're just tired with this abdication of federal responsibility.
Let me ask you about how James Lankford, the Republican senator from Oklahoma, who's tried to shepherd this bipartisan measure up to find a middle ground on relief at the border and still provide Ukraine funding and the like. And his own party, his own Republican Party, has all but censored him, actually, in Oklahoma. And that's for trying to find some common ground on an issue that's dividing both parties fairly severely. What do you think of that?
Well, anytime you touch border immigration, I know that as a former chairman of Homeland, it's very difficult. Look, I applaud him for trying to get something done. That's what we're elected to do.
But that's the thanks he gets, Congressman. I mean, he's been ostracized by many in your party aligned with Donald Trump, who has made it known that he doesn't think it's a good idea for this to go forward and thinks it's a very good issue for Republicans to pound in the election. He said, blame me if that's the case. But is that constructive?
Well, I think if he can achieve significant policy changes, particularly to political asylum, that would be a great step forward. I don't want to wait a year. I just came back from the border. It's bleeding down there. The detention spaces are overflowing, and we need to address this urgency now. Having said that, Neil, the president has plenty of executive, authority to do what he did on day one that he rescinded from the previous administration's policies.
Right.
And I think he could change this tomorrow if he wanted to.
Yeah, well, those executive orders, there were, better than 30 of them. You could just reverse them and undo them. About what I said in that one, cancel it. That one, cancel it. You're right. We'll see what happens. Chairman, always good seeing you.
No, thanks, Neil. Thanks for having me.